All right, hello and welcome to a podcast that I have no idea what we're talking about. And Tanmay is not on this show, and we decided to record this about 2 hours ago on a deck that Cash has been working on for 2 weeks. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cash Danda.
Thanks for having me, Akshay. This is the dynamic duo that no one ever asked for. They want you and Tanmay, me and Tanmay occasionally, but no one ever asked for Cash and Akshay. So we'll see how this one actually goes. So today, what are we talking about? We're talking about how to win a Solana Hackathon. If you're watching this video, you might be asking yourself, like, why should you even listen to us, right? Like, we have not won any hackathons, and that's very fair to say. However, Super Team is building the talent layer for Solana, and as a part of that, we talked to a lot of talented people, and we just did our research. So over the last week or two, me and Srijani have been looking at more than 200 winners of previous hackathons. We talked to 12 of the judges, and we saw way more than 100 terrible submissions, maybe like 1,000 terrible submissions. And across that, we have some themes and patterns and tips that we want to share that'll make your life a little bit easier.
Great. Before you proceed, in 30 seconds, what is the Grizzlython?
You might ask, why would you even give a shit about Solana hackathons at all? Grizzlython is a great example of why you should care. There are 50 plus prizes worth $5 million US. You get global exposure from everywhere in the world, and you're going to get a lot of respect. The Solana hackathons in crypto, I think, are broadly considered one of the flagship events, or one of the most impressive kind of things to win at. Grizzlython is the one that's happening right now. There's, I think, 5 tracks, or there's 10 tracks, 5 prizes per track, and a lot of good projects going to be competing.
Great. So Solana named a global hackathon after an animal that only exists in North America. So that is what Grizzlython is. And we're going to show you a slice of, advice and pro tips from various participants, winners, and judges on how to best prepare yourself for this. The submission date for the hackathon is coming up on the 15th of March. So for those who have signed up, this is a great video. For those who have not signed up, this is a good time to sign up and then watch this video to maybe ship something of value before the 15th of March.
If you are interested, if you might be a little bit intrigued listening to this, that you want to win some of these prizes, you want some of this respect, here's what you can actually do to make it happen. You got to build something cool. That's the first and obvious part. In addition to building something cool, you got to do 5 other things. And that's what we're going to go through and talk about. Let's start off with tip number 1, which is all about the problem that you're trying to solve. And here we can look at some great advice from Nick Garfield, who's co-founder of Clockwork, which won the grand prize at a hackathon recently. When we talked to him, he said that if you have a good problem statement, the actual demo, the actual code that you're writing does not have to be as good. Right? Clockwork itself, he very humbly says they won the hackathon, but it was super buggy and barely worked. And yet, people could see that this was an important problem. It was a good team that had a good shot and a good kind of design architecture for it. So even if it didn't work in the present, they knew it would work in the medium term. What counts as a real problem and what does not? The things on the left are actual problems, right? So solving for user onboarding or retail UX or how DAOs are governed. There's a new track at Grizzlython for network states in particular. Those are real problems. If you are trying to solve the metaverse or some weird artificial intelligence, what's crypto stuff, those are mostly just buzzwords, and the judges are going to see right through that, right? This is where I expected Tanmay to say a bunch of funny little buzzwords. He's no longer here to say other buzzwords, A few other points on how to think about problems. Griblor, aka Aditya Shetty, lead writer over at Super Team, had this advice. Do you want to read out the quote and then I explain it every time? Would that be a nice trick?
Okay. We should keep all of this. This is great, just this is hacking through this.
How much prep we did.
How are we doing this for 1.5 years? Okay. Is the solution significantly better because of adding crypto, or would it be better off without it?
This is a classic hackathon problem. If someone is oh, we should do X with crypto or the Web3 version of X, without even thinking, does crypto actually improve it at all? No one wants the 1,000th version of, arranged marriages with crypto. That's not interesting to anybody. That's not a thing that you should actually be doing. Try to solve real problems, right?
Or the first version of arranged marriage with crypto.
What does that mean?
Well, you said nobody wants a 1,000th version of arranged marriage.
Oh yeah, no one wants even the first version. Yeah, that's right.
Right. This is really important because often it'll be hey, I'm building the Web3 version of a power plant or something, and you're why are you doing that? Well, because it's decentralized. You're yeah, but why does does it need to be decentralized? Well, because it's good. And so then everything ends in sort of like an ideological bias in favor of decentralization. Most of decentralization on crypto, within crypto, or at least on crypto Twitter, is also LARP. And so you just end up with teams building projects for a long time, except they can continue building these projects because there's like a subsidy available in the form of grant programs from various foundations of blockchains that want them to build there. Then there are demo days, then there are hackathons. And so you can continue winning prizes. You can just do this for 2 years with no users, but just build, demoing concepts to MVPs, to stuff on testnet and devnet. And by the time you ultimately launch, I guess it's a bull market, and then you launch your token.
That's like the grifter's path to success. If you're watching this, don't do that. Like, do something that's actually valuable in the world that makes sense because of crypto. Here's another great quote from Shek.
All right. Most judges evaluate projects really from a perspective of, is it net positive to the ecosystem? Will it bring more users or liquidity?
This means that like the core problem that all of crypto has, like let's just call a spade, is that there are not enough like users and liquidity here, right? So the things that are going to be really valuable, the things that the judges are going to want to reward, are all around bringing those kind of in-demand things, right? Here's another quote from Armani.
Focus on the demand side of crypto. There's a tiny amount of crypto users right now. Okay, this sounds like an obvious thing. Surely this was said in the context of something that had nuance.
Yeah, the nuance is this. People are building things assuming that there are already tens of millions of crypto users, which is the wrong thing to do, right? You want to build things that are going to be important right in the here and now, things that are not just like theoretically nice to have in 10 years once everyone gets here, right? So the focus here on all this advice is solve practical problems that are there right now. And here's one more quote from Mango Max that I think is like useful to think about.
Yeah, does it solve an issue that existing blockchain users have? All 6 of them.
All 6 of them, yeah. Those are really good projects to actually start to win things, right? Because you're solving existing problems. So either bring in more users by solving a real problem for them using crypto, or solve problems that existing blockchain users have. A lot of people just skip over this entirely and are looking for the biggest philosophical ideas out there. So like here's...
Okay, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Sorry. So one point here is sort of like the intuitive thing to do seems to be for people to bring in the next billion users. That's sort of like the meme, right? We're going or the first billion users in crypto's case. And so bring it to everyday users. That's sort of the mission statement of most of the crypto companies. Counterintuitively, most of the crypto companies that have succeeded and the projects that have succeeded have done so by focusing on existing crypto natives. They've turned inward, right? Because they just attracted a pool of capital that already existed after, say, the Ethereum ICO and brought that over into DeFi, right? And those were like the DeFi whales that bootstrapped the liquidity in the Ethereum ecosystem. Similarly, like Ledger, Ledger, the hardware wallet, or Phantom, the software wallet, are all unicorns in their own right by selling products to crypto native consumers. There may be much more runway to build stuff for crypto native folks than most people think.
100%. I think that people get so obsessed with having like the flashiest, biggest idea rather than focusing on the actual problem that needs to be solved. Seahorse is a great example of this, right? This was a project that won some prizes in 2022 at summer camp. Seahorse is like a developer tool, right? It allows you to write Anchor compatible programs just using Python. This is great because it brings more developers to the ecosystem, right? Because now it's suddenly easier to build on Solana. And it solves a real problem that, hey, like Rust and Anchor, they're difficult to learn. Like you need to actually make it easier in order for more developers to come to create more valuable things that bring in more valuable users. So you're solving for people who are already interested in blockchain tech, but maybe aren't able to access it in the same way that they might ideally need to. This is the great type of problem to solve. Maybe not be the sexiest problem, but it is a great problem to solve because it's an actual problem. We're going to go on to tip number 2 here, which is to think about the idea. And when you're having ideas in response to problems, the more Solana specific they can be, the better. And again, this seems obvious, but it is not. Most of the time, a lot of the ideas that we see are just, hey, here's a thing that worked on Ethereum. Let's just build it on Solana as well, because it doesn't exist here. This is like classic advice from basically all the judges said something. Here's one from our guy, Mert, co-founder at Helios.
You get instant points if you've built something that only can be built on Solana, especially stuff that other chains couldn't handle. Okay, that's a great point. We should talk about this.
So the question to ask yourself is, as you're like building, what is Solana specific, and what are the types of things that are Solana specific, right? Here's another quote from Mary Gunarate, the co-founder of BridgeSplit, who has a very similar point.
I'd rather see a uniquely successful mechanism or interface versus a smoother version of an existing Solana or ETH project.
What is unique to Solana? And here's one more from our guy Tristan over at Backpack as well.
A new creative idea that has a route to PMF over rehashing the same shit over and over.
All of these quotes have the same exact point, right? These are all judges telling you to your face, build something that is Solana specific. Well, what is Solana specific? Here are a few things that are like specific to Solana. The first one is that it is very fast. You might have heard about that before, right? So building products that are, or building protocols that benefit from speed is really useful. WordCell is a great example here, right? Like on social, WordCell was a publishing platform, a decentralized publishing platform. And when they won the Web3 track at one of the previous hackathons, it was because their product took advantage of the speed, right? You could post things, you could follow people, you could like things, etc., all very quickly at a speed that felt roughly natural compared to Web2 things. TensorTrade is another award winner, right? Which is just the fastest, most performant NFT marketplace in the world. If you use it, it feels like lightning as you go about it. And it's something that it's an experience you can only have on Solana.
And order books. Or do you
order books are another one. Well, order books I think is on the composability side, right? Like what are the things that are a part of Solana that aren't a part of other chains? Well, one is obviously like order books. They don't really exist anywhere else in the same way that they do here. There was Serum. Now we have OpenBook. Soon we'll have Ellipsis Labs as well. So benefiting from shared liquidity across the entire ecosystem is a really powerful thing to do if you're a DeFi founder. But there are other examples as well, right? Like Dialect is taking advantage of the inherent composability of Solana because everything's on a single shared state. It's not fragmented across different layer 2s or whatever else. So all the different apps can create smart messages within the Dialect messaging protocol to do all sorts of fun things. And then finally, the last thing that's like specific to Solana that's useful to think about is what works well in the ascending markets, right? This is another clear strength of Solana because it is fast and cheap and feels easier to use, the UX of it, with more of a mobile focus coming. Think about the types of things that would work in some of these ascending markets, also called emerging markets, right? So like TipLink is an awesome idea. It's basically anybody can have a wallet with just a link. You don't actually need to create a wallet. So it solves this kind of user onboarding problem that you have in places which maybe are not as sophisticated with crypto. Stellar Soul, a super team project or a super team member project, allowed people to use their USDC that they were earning globally at Flipkart, which is the largest e-commerce site in India. So you can actually use it in your day-to-day life, right? These are like things that solve real problems, that create real value, that can really only be done with Solana.
Yeah, I mean, I think never mind. Okay, I'll say it.
Keep that in. Okay, go ahead.
So, when I was in Turkey for the Istanbul Hacker House, we went to the bazaar, right? And there are like all these, like shops where you can buy jewelry and clothes and shoes. And it's truly it's like walking into, there's narrow streets with shops on both sides. And it's like going back in time. Except as you walk through next to like a shoe store is a massive Bitcoin OTC desk, right? And there's like a big screen where you have real-time prices, which is basically the Binance price feed on those on that screen, and you can walk in with like $1 million in crypto and exchange that for US dollars in cash and walk out. Right now, that's a really unsafe way to hold dollars, right? In markets outside of the US, like often the way people hold dollars is physical dollars. But the good news is today you can download a browser extension and hold dollars in that browser extension, subject to local laws and jurisdiction, etc. Right? But where it is legal and regularized, in theory you could do that. So that's sort of like just access to capital assets and dollars is already a massive use case. Smooth onboarding and offboarding, which I don't think is solved even today.
So the basic point here is if your idea is more specific to Solana, it's going to have a much better chance of working. The judges, by and large, are VCs who invest in Solana projects and founders of Solana projects. So they know what is specific to Solana and what is not. We'll talk more about ideas to build later on, but keep this in mind if you want a chance at winning. Tip number 3. You got to think about marketing. And the tip here is to start telling people ASAP. This is super counterintuitive. And very few people actually do it. You know who does it? The goddamn winners. Here's a tip from Mitch, the co-founder at Switchboard, another big prize winner at a previous hackathon.
Okay, being generally active in Solana communities and Discord will help bring early attention to you and your project.
Key idea here is you got to build in public. You have to be telling people before the thing is done, which can feel really uncomfortable. For most builders, and a lot of developers in particular, it can feel like, oh, why am I talking about it? I haven't actually built it. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't really have confidence that it's cool. What if people make fun of the idea, et cetera, et cetera. You just got to get over that. So literally right now, as you're watching this, go create a Twitter page. Come up with any name for your project. It does not matter. Just come up with a name, create a Twitter page, and start posting updates and responding to others, right? You just want to get your name out into the world, familiarize with other people. Go into other Discords. This is another great tip from some of the judges. Go into the Discords of relevant protocols and communities, right? You're building something in DeFi, go to the major DeFi Discords, Solana, Zeta, etc. Ask questions, ask for feedback, try to meet people, right? It's another way to start to build some buzz about your project. And finally, make sure that you're actually networking. Again, this can feel uncomfortable to a lot of people. That's why I'm trying to really hit this point, that it is the difference between winning and not winning oftentimes, right? Here's an example from Port Finance. They included this in their actual submission. They again won some major prizes at Solana season. And you can see the social media engagement. They had people paying attention. And that automatically brings some credibility to the judges. But in addition, and just as importantly, as our guy Chase Barker said,
the benefit is that it could be seen early by one of the judges and it could get flagged to others to make sure they review it closely.
The judges they're social people. They're normal people. They talk with their friends. They talk with other judges about what are the projects that they're excited about or think that are cool. So just getting on their radar early, starting to build up some mindshare is an easy way to make sure that when the judging starts and they see your submission, they're like, oh, I've heard of this before, or I recognize this, or this was the thing that, Ben was telling me about, etc. And they'll give it a little bit of extra thought, a little bit of extra treatment. So marketing is important in addition to the building in this.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a careful balance between the sizzle and the steak. All sizzle and no steak makes Jack a Web3 clown, and all steak and no sizzle makes Jack a crypto nerd. And you don't want to be either of those things. And especially if you're looking to build something and raise money and find users. So
let's go to tip number 4, which is the look. And this is another one that is, I think, oftentimes overlooked. It might sound kind of obvious, but having looked at a lot of submissions, it is not the case. The tip here is make a functional UI. It does not have to be beautiful. It does not have to be incredible, but you should make something. Here's a quote from Armani, our guy from Backpack again.
It doesn't have to be perfect or complete, but a working UI is much more digestible, pitchable for judges than just an API, or often just a deck.
Or just a deck, exactly. Having something that they can look at, feel, maybe play around with makes a gigantic difference. All the judges were talking about this, right? If you don't have much of a design sense, that's fine. If you just have a little bit, just use a landing page template, go buy some template off of Envato or wherever else. Colors.co for a logo. Midjourney can design your graphics or logo. It's really simple, right? And if you have no design sense whatsoever, the good news is that you can either sponsor a bounty on Super Team Earn if you have some funds, or use the free Find a Team feature on the Grizzlython website, which will be right here. JD will show it to you right here. You just say, hey, here are my skills. Here's what I'm looking to do, whatever else. And then you can request intros to other people and they can come talk to you as well. So it's a great way to find other teams. But if you don't have a functional UI, your life is going to be much harder. Here's another example from Switchboard. This was their UI. All due respect to Mitch and the gang, not the most beautiful thing, right? And that's completely fine. It just has something there that you can see. Because going back to our guy Shek,
having something people can see is very important. And we just had a lot to show versus telling.
At WordSell when day one, right? So make sure that you do something. I would say a solid 50% of projects that we saw did not do this. And so it just made it nearly impossible for them to win. Last tip here is around the story. The advice I would give is spend more than 20% of your time on your presentation. There's another thing that most people do not like to do, right? It feels, at least talking to a lot of people who have submitted in the past and looking at a lot of submissions, it is clear that people leave the submission for the last day. That's the first time that they think about it and they put it all together inside of 2 or 3 hours right at the end. That is a terrible idea. Do not do that. Here's another thing from our guy, Based Sharker.
If you don't get past the presentation, judging, pitch stage, no one will ever even see your code. Wow, that's really sad.
It is a sad thing, but it's an important thing to understand about how these hackathons work. Here's the alpha, right? People do not look at your code first. The judges look at all the presentations, they shortlist the best presentations, and then on the back of that, they then go look at your code and see, does it actually deliver what you're saying it delivers, right? So if you only have a good presentation, you're not going to win because they are going to look at your code in depth, right? It's not only about how good is your PowerPoint deck. But if you don't have that good piece, you're never going to get to the more important piece second. They use that as a filtering mechanism because they have to, right? There are hundreds and hundreds of submissions. They can't look at all of the code in depth to start. So here's the advice. As you're packaging your submission, make a demo video. Very clearly, it should be 2 to 4 minutes, absolutely nothing longer than 5 minutes. We saw like 10, 15, 20-minute demo videos. That's outrageous. Don't do that. Less than 5 minutes. Write a script. Do not freestyle it in the way that me and Akshay are freestyling this video right now. Make sure that you have actually like put it down. Use ChatGPT for help. This is a new thing, right? You can just tell it about your project, ask it to write a script. You'll have something pretty good that you can work on and edit.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
It's actually...
Is that how you're doing this pitch?
But here's the bigger point, right? Is if you watch these videos, and again, we have watched the videos, they are worse than you could expect because people are clearly just making it up as they go along. Ahs, kind of whole minutes of silence, or they'd have to go backtrack and stuff. It's just don't do that, right? Basic hygiene is going to be taking you a long way here.
Well, isn't it ideal if they just made like a sizzle video? Like that's not even like a, hey, here's how this thing works under the hood and here's all the things it can do, versus just like a 60-second hype video of all the features, like a product launch?
Actually, no. So you want to see people going through and actually seeing the real product. If you can do both, though, then you're in a really good spot. So let me actually show you this example. Check this out. This is Zeta Markets, which is a very popular DeFi. This is their submission video, right?
That looks like Z News from India.
So you see what they did there, right? It's you just go on Fiverr, you get a little, I assume they went on Fiverr or something, get a nice little motion graphics animation intro made, but the rest of the time should be spent going through your projects because the people want to hear it in your voice, see if you believe it, see if it is believable, right? Because again, a lot of grifters in Web3, do you sound confident? Do you understand what you're talking about in the video? Also going to be important. So production value helps, but I would say do not go all the way overboard on production value. You still have to show what you're doing is a real thing. The second big tip here, use a pitch deck. To make your life easier, we have a pitch deck for you. Surprise, bonus, alpha. You can just customize our template as a base and then start to add in your own content. And then the link will be in the description down below as well. It'll take you like 20 minutes or 30 minutes to do the first draft of it, and then you can start to edit it over time. But just use it. It's a bit easier that way. What's so funny? Do you like the little here thing?
Yeah, you're really trying to be a YouTuber, aren't you?
You see that?
It's going to be somewhere here. You'll just love saying that because makes you feel like you have superpowers. You say something and something comes on screen.
I like to make JD work as well, so that's the other like nice part.
JD literally put it on the far end of the screen, like put it away from wherever he's saying
if
it.
My hand is here, yeah, put it like up here.
Just put it up.
That's funny because it's going to make JD look dumb instead of me. Anyway.
Keep this part.
And then lastly, be smart on your GitHub, obviously. Here's another tip from our guy, Maddie, head of growth at Solana Foundation.
Okay, one thing we look at, why are you and your team well suited to continue developing the product?
Fundamentally, unlike some other hackathons, the Solana Global Hackathons are closer to startup competitions, right? So it's not just about the thing that you've made. It's also how likely are you to continue this into the future? It's a business competition of sorts. As you are packaging your submission, really important to keep this in mind, right? The more kind of founder problem fit that you have or that you're able to convey in your pitch, perhaps in your demo video or in your pitch deck, the more likely you are to go further in the competition. Here's another quote from our guy, Chonk Charker.
Since a global hackathon is essentially a startup competition, having a business model will massively increase your chances for VC investment.
You don't have to go all the way, right? Like you don't need to have like TAM, SAM, like slides. You don't need all of that. You don't need like 5-year revenue projections. The point is, the more you can think of it like a business and present it like a functional business, the more likely you are to win some of the major prizes and get that VC funding. Here's an example of a really good deck from a few years ago. You can see the design is not like anything special, but the narrative of it is very clear. This is from Solend, which is the largest borrow lend protocol on Solana. With Solend, you can 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the benefits. What Solend unlocks, all of these additional benefits, right? These are like the functional use cases that you can do. Here's what it unlocks. 1 slide, 2 slide, super easy for anyone to understand. And I'm showing this because they won the DeFi track entirely. This is not like a deck that they paid somebody thousands of dollars to make, right? This is just like a basic template, adding some text, but it helps make things clear. We already looked at the Zeta Markets like example video. This is a great demo video. You can go and find this as well in a resource I'll tell you about in a second. 4 minutes long. They're just going through it. Pretty basic. And here, by the way, you can see another UI that is not great, but good enough to help them win the award, the grand prize.
Yeah, by the way, we're going to link to build.superteam.fun, which has...
hold on, buddy, on that. We got some slides for that coming up. It's like cool. Literally the next thing. Yeah. This is the thing. And then actually, do you want to intro the next thing? Do you want to say that, but more as a question?
What? Do you want me to set you up for your next slide?
I thought you were going to make an organic...
Just do your own fucking job, bro.
Co-host of the year.
I don't get paid enough for this.
All right. Anyway, so you're looking at this, you're like, wow, these tips are so great. Cash, thank you so much. Actually, you guys are geniuses. You've made my life so much better. But I still don't know what to build, you might be saying. You're new to crypto, whatever else. Don't worry, we got you covered, right? There's a website called Super Team Build that contains just tons of ideas. I think it's like 85 ideas of things to build during one of these hackathons right now. It's just build.superteam.fun. It's entirely free. It's organized into a bunch of these different categories. You can see here are the problems to solve. Here's a possible solution, right? A lot of the problems are where you're going to want to focus your time on, as opposed to the exact solution. You can build it, of course, but you can use it as inspiration to come up with your own creative solution as well. If that's not enough, you're greedy, you want even more. Don't worry, we got you covered with a past winners list. As I said, we did a bunch of research for this video, looked at more than 200 prize winners. We put all of that together in a super easy to digest resource for everyone watching this. This is entirely free. Just go to build.superteam.fun. You'll find it on the website, or you can go directly to this URL. It's all the different categories broken down with all of the winners across all of the hackathons of the last, I think, 3 years are in here. You can click on them. You can find links to their presentations, to their GitHubs, to their active websites if they're still there. You can see what tracks they won. You wouldn't start a real business without doing some competitive research. You should probably not start a hackathon project without doing the same. So take 15, 20 minutes, look through here to see what others have done in the past.
Yeah, this is an awesome resource, especially because, this goes back, 3 years of hackathons. Mm-hmm. And so it's an invaluable treasure trove of like past presentations, demo videos, things like this. You can look at every winner of the previous hackathon and see what they did well and what they didn't. And, big props to Srijani and you for sort of like putting this together.
Yeah, put it on Srijani's face right here, JD, or put it right here. Anyway, all right, let's go. So after all of this, you have the ideas ready. You're feeling pretty hopeful. You think you're ready to get started. Here's some even better news for you. We got you covered in many countries around the world, not all of them. We have Buildstations live. Actually, do you want to explain what the Buildstations are?
Yeah, Buildstations are physical locations where you can find and meet other people who are also participating in the hackathon. So you can be motivated and have some peer-to-peer interactions, meet mentors who may resolve doubts and things like this that you may have while you're building. So you can successfully submit your project before the submission date, which is March 14th.
Get there on March 14th. Very nicely.
That is me doing Cash Danda.
That's your Cash impression. Here's my Akshay impression. Allegedly. What a stupid idea, bro. All right. Super Team's even doing a remote build station. So if you don't live in any of these countries and you're not close to them, hit up our Discord. That link will be somewhere down below. And you can come hang out, get remote sessions from mentors, get advice, get feedback. We will personally help you on all of your different work here. So the only question left is what are you waiting for? Go get started. There's $5 million in prizes available right now at Grizzlython. There's going to be more at future hackathons. Get involved.
Can't believe we wasted one slide on a rhetorical question. Is that it? Are we ready to end the video?
We are ready to end the video at long fucking last.
All right. Links to participate in the hackathon are in the description. Links to find the inspiration for your hackathon idea are also in the description. Go check out the past hackathon winners. And I hope we never have to do a video with Cash only. With that, ladies and gentlemen, God bless
come back.
You. Best of luck and have a wonderful week.
See you.